Good morning, everybody. I wanted to touch base on a couple of things. First of all, I have to just mention this one thing. If you're not a Vancouver person, we just had, in my opinion, the biggest loss in the history of Vancouver hairdressing. The great John Paul Holt, owner of Avant Garde Salon in Vancouver, passed away, I believe, suddenly. This is a man that I absolutely look up to, and I mean, I want to say that we're friends, and he would have said we're friends, but I wasn't that close to him. I don't know anything about his personal life. I just know him professionally as an incredible contributor to the community of hairdressing in Vancouver. Massive loss. I can think back to the show. I'll tell you, when I was in hair school, we had a video, and it was a pixie cut that he did, and I fully remember that being the haircut that I copied and did forever. Every time I did a pixie, had a little zigzag parting at the hairline that you would section out and then cut in. This was at a time when things were very fringy. And that was my first real exposure to this guy. And then he was, winning all the Canadian Hairdresser of the Year awards. And then I went to a show in hair school in Seattle. Seattle used to have a great hair show. And actually, I wasn't in hair school. Sorry, I was actually working professionally at a salon called Axis. And we went down to this hair show because Trevor Sorby was on stage. And John Paul and the Avant Garde team, which I believe was John Paul and Martin Hillier and Francois Prieur. It was like a heavy hitter who's who of Canadian hairdressers, even though two of them were Brits, on stage. And I don't even think they talked. I think all they did was they just did hair, and they did, like, the salon was called Avant Garde, and they did Avant Garde hair. It was like literally they took these models from street to huge, in 20 minutes kind of thing. And it was really, really cool to see the process and the prep work. And then what was really, really cool after that, when Trevor came on, Trevor was like, "Can you believe John Paul Holt and his team? John Paul Holt is here." And I was like, whoa. And I remember years later, I told JP that Trevor had shouted him out at that show, and you could see he was really, really happy, because it was always cool to see the older British guard who knew JP before he came out. I mean, he owned salons in London before he came out to Vancouver. Anyways, a great man, and I truly believe the most important person in the history of Vancouver hairdressing. And I don't think the industry will ever be the same without him. He was always there, and I think we just assumed he'd always be there, So anyway, tell your mentors how you feel about them, because you never know you never know. Anyway, so with that being said, I get so much material from hairdressing forums of hairdressers asking questions about behavior, and then getting supported in their really weird takes on things. And there's the disease in our industry, and this is going to sound super, super negative. It's going to piss people off. But the disease in our industry is hairdressers going independent too soon and not having a clue how a real business operates. And when you go independent, you're a business. And when you've never learned how a business operates, if you don't have anything to aspire to, even if you are a chair rental, if you're a one chair, if you're a suite renting stylist, if you don't know what a proper salon behaves like, then the whole industry degrades. The reason the whole industry is degrading is because the suite business is taking off so much in the US, and I'm sure it's taking off in Canada as well. It's taking off so much that you have a situation where now it's been going on for so long that it's the blind leading the blind. And people are getting advice from other independent hairdressers. And for me, I have almost never looked at the salon industry for my inspiration for my businesses because so few salons do it really well. I can name on one hand the amount of salons themselves as companies that I could aspire to as far as behavior and professional take on things. I look to Van Michael Salon, to Van and his brother started the company Van Michael Salon in Atlanta and I guess in Tokyo and Florida. And I look to those guys. I look to David Wagner. I looked to Axis Salons in Vancouver. I look at Suki's Salons in Vancouver. I look at the salons that have stood the test of time, not very many have, and have built a brand and a business bigger than just themselves and their ego and their whims of the moment. And the problem with indie hairdressers, so many of them, is they're taking their cues from other indie hairdressers who don't know what professional behavior is. So, what is my point? Okay, so the latest two things that I read. One, this person, I'm going to paraphrase, but this person was posting the text back and forth with a client. I believe it was the client's mother. And the client was just simply saying she wanted a neutral to ashy, light brown, dark blonde balayage, and she didn't want to see any warmth. I'm like, yeah, okay. And the client was really adamant about not seeing any warmth. I'm like, okay. What are we doing here? That's what we do. We hear that exact same thing. If in my salon, we hear that same thing 5 times a day. But this was like, this person posted, I don't know, I'm thinking I shouldn't do this person's hair. They don't want to see any. And all these other hairdressers, even experienced ones, are like, red flag, run away. Oh, hell no. Like this kind of shit over somebody wanting a neutral result. Holy crap. Guys, our job is to do hair. And if you don't think you know how to lighten hair to a yellow so that you can tone it down 2 levels to ensure that there's no warmth in the end result, and then educate your client on what the maintenance is going to be, which is probably 8-week toners, right? We don't create a balayage and then expect the client to disappear and expect, and not educate them and saying, this is what's going to happen. It potentially might fade to some degree of warmth. It's very possible. It's very likely. If you'd like to maintain this color without redoing your roots, you're going to need to come in every 6 to 8 weeks for a toner. And that toner is going to cost you this. That's how we do it. Now, this client wasn't even saying, and I don't want the toner, and I want this color to last forever. That's not what this person was saying. This person was just saying they were adamant about not seeing any warmth. It's been a hairdresser meme forever where we create silver hair on somebody and then the client says they still see warmth. That's what we do, guys. And I'll just tell you, if all you do is people and things that are easy, then really, are you a decent hairdresser? Like, who doesn't like a little bit of a challenge? Now, I will admit that if I see a major color correction coming into my chair, I will probably pass it off to Steph because she likes that kind of shit. And I don't. I'm not, I'm 30 years as a hairdresser. I'm not interested anymore in spending, 5 hours on working. I've always passed that work off to people who enjoy detail work like that. Like, same thing I'll see on these forums where somebody will come in and potentially it's like a mental health issue where somebody hasn't brushed their hair out in 6 months and they have a giant dreadlock in the back of their hair. And I am so amazed how many hairdressers are so empathetic to that situation and will spend the hours. So I am so impressed with the industry when I see people like that, because I'm not doing that either. So I get certain things that we don't want to do, but doing a neutral to ash brown balayage result, and you're like, this is a red flag, and you have the support of other people saying this is a red flag, hell, guys, what the hell? And then here's the other one that I just read the other day, that a stylist in an independent, again, it's another Indian. I don't want to shit on indies, but what I'm saying, my point of this is, we're taking our cues from the wrong people, guys. We got to look up to the right people. We got to look up to heroes, and that's not just in the result that they create behind the chair, right? They're only ever talking about they're only showing the magic, right? Like they're not showing what the reality of their day-to-day is. We got to look to the people who are sludging it out day to day, who are dealing with difficult situations, right? Like salon owners with multi-salons, with multi-employees. Those guys are dealing with drama. Every day I deal with drama. I've seen every type of situation. I don't want to say you should look to me, because I barely handle my own shit, so I'm not necessarily the one, but I look to other people because I know they've seen everything that I see. So anyway, the other thing was, this person was trying to have their client sign a waiver freeing the stylist from injury, or in the event of injury or death. And the client was like, what the hell? No, I can't do that. And the stylist is like, well, that's what I insist on you doing. And then the stylist, I think, wants their deposit back. Who the hell would sign off on not being able to have recourse, financial recourse, should you die or get injured through the fault of the business? You know, we're not talking dropping dead of a heart attack. We're talking slipping on some water or getting electrocuted because you're shoddy electric. That's what this is about. I can't even believe I wasn't even allowed to open my first business. I think I had to have a minimum of 3 million liability, and that's 25 years ago. And that was a 2-chair salon. I can't imagine expecting a client to sign a waiver like that. We have our clients sign waivers in our academies saying that your work is being done by a student, and you're not going to hold the company responsible if your hair is fucked up and maybe you get color on your shirt, right? Should you insist on wearing a turtleneck, and my student might, be sloppy with their application or with their rinsing of your color. It happens, shit happens. We're not going to be responsible for it for a $20 haircut, or a $35 color. But if you're operating as a real big deal hairdresser, have you seen any other legitimate business absolve? Like, do you walk into the friggin' Gap and sign a waiver that you're not going to slip on something on the floor? Like, it makes no sense. But anyways, thankfully, some people in the community were saying this is like crazy, but other people were saying, good, red flag, you dodged a bullet. I just what are we doing here? And then I kind of bring it because I'm obsessed with John Paul Holt. And the thing that was so great about this guy was he was like freaking, maybe he was like a duck on the water where the feet are frantic underneath, but he always looked calm above the water. And he always had a smile, and he's like, yes, darling, whatever, like, calm and cool, man. Like, who's creating policies and drama for their clients? Like, what are we doing here? We're doing hair, guys. Every client, not every client, 95% of your clients just want pretty hair, okay? And if you don't see your job as creating pretty hair, I think you have a major problem. There's a major disconnect in the world right now, and we keep seeing it. I love that TikTok is calling people out. I'm kind of like addicted to TikTok lately. First, there was Cakegate, where the baker was calling out the customer for being unhappy, and then the customer shows the shitty cake that the baker charged like $80 for, and the cake was freaking insanely ridiculous. And I love that this got called out. And then the latest one that just started yesterday is Tattoogate, where some tattoo artist is acting so super entitled and charging an exorbitant amount of money. Exorbitant? exorbitant amount of money for art that was shit. It was crazy to see, and I love that the public is now putting people on blast for stuff. But you better check yourself, guys. Like, start behaving like a real business and stop seeing your customer as your enemy. Understand that your customers just want great work, and they want to love you, and they want to come back, and they want to be repeat business, and they want to have a great experience. That's what we're supposed to be providing. The great John DeJulius had a whole thing. He's written some wonderful books. One of he started changing my life with a book called Secret Service, and just talking about the systems that he created within his business, and that he coaches other businesses. He's a industry leader in service, that he coaches other businesses in creating extraordinary service as systems, not just like one-off kind of things, but systems to create extraordinary service. Wow, man, God, I ramble. What he had written recently on just his Facebook post is, can we just get rid of the word policy? It's a fucking hair salon, guys. Do we need a policy? You don't go into a place and expect to read a bunch of policies at a restaurant. You go in expecting a good meal and a good time and good service. Guys, don't create policies for the 1 out of every 15 people that give you a bit of shit. Okay? For the 1 out of 15 people that aren't happy or maybe are a little bit weird. You don't create policies for the minority experience. You just write those things off. Shit happens. That's the way we're in customer service, guys. Not every customer is normal. You are not going to make 100%. Don't count your chickens, guys. You're not going to make 100% of the money all the time. There's going to be times that you have to take a bath on things. Big frickin' whoop. Big picture. Create your environment for people to be happy in, not to protect you from the one psycho out of every 20 people that you have to deal with. And now, I understand, guys, when you can do 10 people in a row and they all tell you they love you, it's the one that's unhappy with something that you remember, that you lose sleep over at night. We have to get out of that mindset. We have to stop being so defensive with what we do. Shit happens. You're going to have to give the odd refund. You're going to deal with Visa coming back on you. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes the client's a psycho. But let's just assume that all clients are not psychos and all clients just want pretty hair. And most of them, if they die because you fucking killed them in your salon, that maybe their family should have some recourse as well. Have a great day, guys. All the best.